Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining Iris and myself. Our topic for today is how can data products help you really achieve the maximum value from using LLM and GenAI, and why is it so critical to your GenAI success? We're going to show demos. It's going to be a very exciting session. So if you can move to the left, or if you want to move to the left, will be easier to see it on the screen over there. Just before I starting, and I'm trying to elaborate about how do we bring value to people that are adopting GenAI and LLM, I want to start with telling you that GenAI and LLM is a lot about scale. So when we're looking into scale, I want to share with you just from the first second here is that K2view works in an unparalleled scale. When I'm talking about unparalleled scale, I'm talking about full view of a customer in a company like Charles Schwab. When you're looking into 350 different data product, different aspects of the business. I am talking about real-time data at scale in places like AT&T, when you actually have about 300 million updates in a day, more than 3,500 updates in a second. So really real-time data that is always up to speed. I am talking about customer like Sun Life, that when they look into their insurance end customer, they have more than 500,000 data points. And maybe my last example is when we're looking into scale in GenAI, latency is really important. It is a conversational interface. So in places like Vodafone, they're ensuring that the latency of respond is way lower than a second. It is actually 300 millisecond response time to any data interaction. So K2view definitely work in scale, in an unparalleled scale. Now let us go into the next part, and here I'll ask Iris to help me in a second. What we want to see is like how LLM is different in delivering value and delivering premise to improve your interaction with customers, with partners, with your own employees.
Right. Thank you, Ronen. So we see that GenAI brought amazing promise to our lives, and it changed many things, like anything from writing code to producing videos to planning my next family trip to Venice. But in the enterprise setting, it's different, and the promise is not yet there, and many organizations are still struggling with how to improve and use GenAI to improve customer success. And the question is why? And we see three questions or three problems that organizations and enterprises are dealing with. The first one is that any user can now ask any question about the data. Any user means people from within the organization, but also people from outside the organizations. They can ask any questions. It's very hard to predict what's the next question going to be about. And although LLMs were trained on tons and tons of data, we still get hallucinations and we still get generic answers. So this is why it's tough for enterprises to use GenAI today. And let's look at an example. I spoke about customer questions. So this is an example from a bank. Many questions can come from in a customer chatbot to a bank. But when we try to group them on we see three major groups. The first one is generic questions like, what is the difference between a credit card and a debit card? Any LLM in the world can answer that. He doesn't need to know anything about the organization or anything about myself as a customer. So that's maybe 10 to 20% of the questions that come in. The next group is around specific knowledge base within the organization. So these will be questions like, what credit cards do you provide? Or what interest rate you provide to private customers. So these are questions that do require access to organizational knowledge, and organizations typically do that using RAG frameworks, vector DBs, etc. But the more interesting part is around questions that require customer data. So that will be questions like, why do I have a charge of $50 from last week? Or can I dispute this charge for $50? So these are questions about me, and they require my data for the LLM to actually answer that. And we see that this is the most interesting part. 50 to 70% of the questions actually come from that gate. And when we come to organizations, we see that they're going through a GenAI journey. They start with something like a virtual assistant. We call it Rep Assist, because they're not sure yet that GenAI can actually deliver on the promise. So they keep the human in the loop, and they help the rep in the call center provide the answers by giving him and enabling it to see all the relevant information about the customer. So that already provides a lot of value to the organization, because the call center is a big cost item, and any efficiency you be able to provide there is relevant and significant to the organization. The next step is to move to customer assist and allow the customers to directly communicate with the chat. And organizations are beginning to do that as they gain confidence in the GenAI answers. And ultimately, the vision maybe is to use agentic AI and be proactive with understanding the customer service floors and being proactive about calling the customer even before he knows there is a problem. So that's the journey. And let's look at an example. One of our customers, Pelephone. So let's look at the novelty.
Pelephone is the first cellular company in Israel, a company with a lot of customers and employees. Service excellence is one of our major goal. We are looking to use GenAI to improve customer service efficiency and to elevate the customer experience. We have a lot of data of each customer, a lot of data, 10 years, 20 years, a lot of deep data. And the trick is to analyze all of a customer's data just before they call from all our systems, and to anticipate why the customer, let's say it's Maya, might be calling the CSR, and to give the customer service rep the relevant information that maybe Maya called right now. If I got my invoice 2 weeks ago, and yesterday I was in the shop of Pelephone and bought some device, and now I called, it's very likely that I'm calling because of an issue with my new device and not because of a previous invoice. The relevant information will be for the GenAI assistant to tell the CSR that Maya bought this device yesterday at this price, in this location, with this plan and these payment terms. All the relevant and real-time info is summarized for the CSR and presented to them before the call begins. This cuts our average handle time and will improve first contact resolution rates. To integrate the GenAI team in an enterprise company, it's a challenge. I made a new team with a lot of skills, technology, data, security, business, and they have one shared goal that they are all working on as a team, each in their own domain. When we are dreaming about AI, you have to have a high level of maturity in your data. The data needs to be securely accessible in real time from your source systems. This allows the GenAI to query fresh data and get instant responses. This is what K2view does for us. We are working with K2view for a few years, and I love to work with this company. And first, of course, the technology and the platform, but also all the people in the company. And it's something that for me, it's very important. It's partner. It's not just company that have technology and we use it. It's a relationship. To create a smart and effective copilot, a good data infrastructure is required. And this is where K2view comes into the picture.
Great example. Let's look at another customers. Another one of our telco customers. So in this example, they realized that the call center is getting 70% of the questions about invoices. A simple question like, why is my invoice 70% or $70 more than last month? And these are complicated questions to answer, because what the rep needs to do in the call center is extract the data, get the invoice from this month, get the invoice from last month, and start looking at them and comparing them line by line when an upset customer is on the line. So these are calls that take typically 4 to 6 minutes, and they wanted to find a way to resolve them quicker and provide the relevant data to the customer in a much quicker manner. So they do it with K2view. We can go on. In something that looks like this. On the right-hand side, you see that once a customer calls, we get the customer profile up in front of the rep. So he gets the basic information about who this customer is, what's his plan, what's his programs, what's his latest invoice, and even a small short comparison of this month to last month. So the rep already has the information to answer 70% of the questions about why my invoice is bigger, already have in front of him before the customer even calls. And then on the other side, we see a chat and any additional follow-up questions from the customer. The rep can use the chat, ask questions. The chat has all the information needed about this customer and can provide a breakdown of the bill or any other questions that the customer might have. So that's amazing, and they're already seeing some very good KPIs. And in both of those cases, the customer told us that they ran last year over 100 projects with GenAI, pilot project with GenAI in all areas of the organizations, right? Everybody was playing with GenAI. But the one with K2view, these two projects that we showed you, are the ones that actually made it to production. It has to do with what Ronen was speaking about before, the scalability, the security of the products. The data is secured and it can be safely used with a chatbot like that. And other KPIs that they're already seeing an impact is shorter call times, quicker resolution, and quality, consistent service quality across the board.
So I think this is demo time. And I actually got the privilege to do the demo instead of one hand tied behind my back, one hand here. So I'm going to type with only one hand. So the demo gods better support me nicely as I do the demo. So I'm sure all of you have been in a ChatGPT a screen before. And if you go here and you say, what should I do in the next 48 hours in Orlando, which is a good question. Orlando, which is a good question. You're actually going to get an excellent answer, and I would follow some of these recommendations. Okay, that was usually it responds very, very fast to ChatGPT. It does. Okay, so the answer is coming up, and we're actually going to see a bunch of recommendation what to do in the next 48 hours. So we know that ChatGPT actually knows how to do that very, very well. However, if you are the telco example like we just saw, and you actually want to try and help your customer deal with a problem, like my Wi-Fi is not working, what should I do? Sorry, typing with one hand or even one finger is a very interesting challenge. If I put this question and I look for the answer from any LLM, it's not specifically this one, you can see that the answer is actually a very generic answer. The answer is actually not grounded in any way. And this is actually a good example. It's really, really funny. Like, can you imagine me restarting the router right now here on stage to get my Wi-Fi to work? It's not really something that one can do, right? But if I take the same question, and I'm going to show you the demo with the same ChatGPT LLM working behind the scenes, but now it's powered by K2view Data Products. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be just any telco customer, like David Smith, for example, and I'm just going to basically, I just copied and I'm going to paste so I don't have to type more, the same question, and I'm going to run the question right now. And if you're close enough to the screen and you can actually see, relatively fast, definitely in a conversational manner, the same LLM is giving you a very different answer. The answer right now is you're not paying your bills, and that might jeopardize your service in the future. And the second part is actually telling us like, oh my God, there is actually an outage right now that might be impacting your service. So let me show you how is that becoming the answer. Same LLM, same question. Why did we get a different answer? So here I have a button that is just for demo purposes, that is showing you the agent or the chatbot and how is it configured behind the scenes. You can see here an opening prompt that is showing us how the agent was initialized. And after that, what you are seeing, and this is actually where this is very unique, is K2view is basically sharing back with the LLM the data product definition. This is the data that we know about the customer, and the data that we know about the customer subscriber, and the data that we know about the subscriber devices, and more and more and more, just the metadata, enriched metadata about the customer. And once this has been done, you're seeing kind of best of breed LLM integration. We're asking the LLM to write a query and actually ask for the information. So it's no hard-coded API. We gave a schema and we're asking the LLM to basically write the query. So when you're writing this query, you're actually going to see that the LLM is getting an answer. There is a chain of thought here. It's being evaluated, reflection, and then guess what? I want to ask another question. So now there is another question. Now there is actually more data coming back. And now I'm going to see, is that enough? It's being summarized, but no, actually there is a third question that is being asked. So in a sub-second, we were able to run 3 queries on the customer to actually collect all the information. Then the information is being summarized. And basically the LLM is reflecting one more time, deciding that it's 2 to 2. I have all the data that I need to answer. And this is where the answer is being, that's where the answer is being written. So what we saw right now live really in a sub-second level is a lot of data being processed, K2view responding in a very, very, very fast manner. So let me go back to the presentation.
Right. So how are organizations addressing this today? What are they doing?
So I think you're asking a very fair question, because some of the people, maybe even in the audience, they are trying to actually do something similar. So when I'm talking to our customer, the number one solution that they have is they're writing APIs on the backend system. They're putting an API gateway before that, and they're trying to directly access the backend system to get the answer. What does that mean? Since you can ask any question at any time by anybody, you need to start coding a lot of APIs. And then you need to manage a lot of APIs, and you need to be able to control all of that very, very effectively. That is not something you want to try and do. Those of us that have gray hair from being in the integration space for too long, this is an LLM spaghetti, and it's not better than the spaghettis that have been created by other integration platforms. Highly not recommended. So in that case, some people are going to say, oh, we already solved this problem in analytics. I might have used Snowflake or Databricks or Teradata or whatever I used before. I put all my data in a lake. Why can't I just hit the lake? And let me actually, instead of writing APIs, I'll have APIs over the lake. This doesn't work either. When you're going to try and ask an operational question about a single customer like David to a data lake, you're going to wait. And some of our customers are waiting for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 20 minutes to actually get the most basic answer. Even if you're writing optimization, the optimization will only work for queries you already know. So there is actually here a very problematic option. This option is also problematic because the LLM has the keys to the kingdom. Anything wrong in the query can expose information that is not supposed to be exposed. It also, the information in the data lake is correct for the last time the ETL job worked or the last time the data lake was updated. So this is becoming an invalid option as well. Now, I'm not suggesting to replace your data lake. I'm not suggesting to drop the work that you did before. I am suggesting to add a very sophisticated real-time caching layer, caching the information in the data warehouse, caching directly from real-time systems, and run this directly against the LLM. This will enable you in a fully secured way to run any query that you want. So my last sentence is, we're in a time that you have an unbelievable opportunity to change your customer experience. You basically can shorten any call. You can get better response from any employee, and you can actually have a faster turnaround. You can do it in a secure, scalable, unlimited, parallel queries, conversational latency. This is done today by the K2view customers. So I want to finish with thank you to everybody for listening. I think grounding your LLM with real-time information from your enterprise system is really, really critical. And to celebrate this grounding, we are actually handing a bunch of grinders, coffee grinders, in our booth. So there is a really, really nice gentleman here with a hat. In his other hat, there is a card. Go with this card to our booth, and we're handing about 5 really great grinders. So thank you very, very much. Thank you.